I really enjoy engaging with my customers and helping them get the best product they need for what they're doing. That satisfaction that I get from them coming back and telling me how good their dinner party was or how good their meal was, that's what I love.
This is the Australian Butchers Guild podcast, brought to you by Meat and Livestock Australia, the podcast for passionate butchers.
G'day butchers, welcome to episode 49 of the Australian Butchers Guild podcast. I'm Doug Piper. The weather's starting to cool down here a little bit in the eastern part of the country, and soon customers are going to be looking to create their own favourite winter meals. Beef and lamb are the ideal proteins to use for casseroles and braisers, and I'm seeing a lot of oxtail and beef cheeks already making their way into the cabinets. But don't forget about corn silverside. That's one of the subjects we're going to talk to Garreth Gorringe from the Meat Boutique about today. Gareth's just come back from Paris. He was one of the butchers in the Australian Butchery Team at the World Butcher Challenge. He's the backbone of the team, one of those guys, a quiet achiever, so I'd like to introduce you to him. G'day, Gareth.
G'day, Doug. How you doing?
Going well, mate. How are you doing?
Oh, marvellous, mate. Marvellous.
Well, welcome back into Australia, I suppose, nearly. You've been back a couple of weeks now?
Yeah, about that. Just still trying to get grounded back at work, but it's good to be back home.
Yeah, awesome, mate. So for those of you who don't know Gareth, Gareth is one of the Australian Butcher Team who was over there in Paris. I put Gareth down as the quiet achiever because he's been very quiet, but he does a bloody good job. I've been trying to get you on here for quite some time, mate, and something else pops up and I go, I've got to get Gareth on, and all of a sudden I thought, right, I'm going to grab him, and then the bugger stays over in Europe for an extra couple of weeks. So we had to sort of stretch it out a little bit. But, mate, really love the work that you do. I've seen a little bit of it. Haven't seen a lot. The boys speak so highly of you and the work that you do and how you're a solid backbone of the team.
Yeah, I suppose I've just always been there. I'm Mr. Consistent, I'd probably say. You know, they throw me something, a challenge, and I do it, and no fuss, no muss, I suppose.
So what did you think of the comp, mate? What's your take out of it?
Oh, it was very full on. Thinking back to Sacramento, and we're in this giant arena, and it felt really large and grand. But then because it was so big, you lost so much sound and so much feeling because you didn't really have that crowd on top of you. And then we walk into the arena, walking out in Paris, and they reckon there was about 4,000 people there, but it was right on top of you. The noise was deafening from the get-go. You couldn't hear each other talking on the benches, so you scream into each other. It was intense.
That's incredible. And to get that many people there, that's a pretty big feat, that, to get people, like 4,000 people, to come and watch some butchers cut meat.
Yeah, you wouldn't think there'd be that many people interested, but I suppose apparently there is. I guess maybe, Europe's the location because they all love their meat there. They respect their butchers there. They froth it, I suppose, is a good choice of word.
They're like a rock star, aren't they, over there? Every now and again you'll see some European butcher there, and he's got this cult following there. I was just talking to Lukey earlier, and we mentioned Dario, the guy over there in I think he's in Italy or wherever he is, and he's just an amazing butcher, very traditional, and that's what it's like in Europe, isn't it? Like in France in particular, from what I've seen.
Yeah, you go to the butcher and it's like a show.
They do a bloody good job. I've seen a few over there, but I just haven't seen anything like what we do here in Australia. We're completely different because we're more, I think, Aussie butchers are more value add rather than over there. They got more traditional cuts. That's when I was last there. That was probably over 10 years ago. But it was an amazing place to go and see and witness all that what they do there. In particular, the charcuterie, the stuff they have there. Some of those charcuterie shops. Did you get to see any of those?
Yeah, checked out a few through Italy. Stumbled across a couple beautiful places, and you walk past them and you go, that wouldn't pass food safe in Australia. But it's just ceiling to walls salami and prosciuttos and everything, and it's incredible to see. Very different to what we have here. But
overall, mate, great job. You guys came third, and that's a pretty big feat. 14 other teams you're competing at the same time with, you had a lot of barriers there, I believe, and to get through, like especially the language barrier and getting all your ingredients and everything. But it all came together nicely, and third's a bloody great result. And congratulations on all the work that you did too. Hey, so how did it all start for you, mate? When did you decide to become a butcher? What drove you into the trade?
Honestly, it was a bit of a after school job, just working as a wash up kid. And then the more time I spent in shop doing it, the guys I was working with sort of threw me different jobs, and eventually just sort of hit a point of going, I could do this. I could do this for a job. Dropped out of school end of year 10, fell into an apprenticeship, and haven't looked back since.
So where was the first shop you worked in? Was that at the Meat Boutique or was it somewhere else?
The first shop I ever worked in was actually a Joe's shop, Joe's at Carlingford. Then found out very quickly that that's not the type of shop you want to do an apprenticeship at.
Yep.
So I signed up. I was working Moore's Gourmet Butchery, North Epping.
Okay.
For Michael Moore. Yeah, was there for nearly 12 months. Sort of felt like I'd learnt what I could from him, and then jumped around for a few years and learnt what I needed to learn.
Yeah, right. So how long you been with at the Meat Boutique for?
Been there for coming up to 9 years now.
Wow. So you were the McDonald's there then?
The McDonald's has sold when I started there.
Yep.
So I came in there when Adam Cooper had just taken over. Now he's sold, and it's now Grant Murray.
Oh, right. Didn't realise Adam moved on.
Yeah, he sold up very, very quiet, did it very quietly, very quickly, mid last year.
Now, we see a lot of that happening. A lot of butchers are changing hands, which is good. At least they're not shutting down. They're changing hands, which is a better thing.
Yeah, very true, very true.
So you had any influence? Anybody been a significant influence on you throughout your career?
I think I'd say I have three big influences for me. One of which I would never have got into competition butchery if it wasn't for them, and that would be Shannon Walker. You know, I wouldn't have had the confidence to even do it if it wasn't for him just hounding me and pushing me as he does.
Yep.
The second one would be George Aberisk. Yeah, he's done a lot for me, just for the the mental side of managing a shop, managing a team, managing people. And then the other I'd probably put down to more technical aspects would be Gavin Cooper. There's not a lot of butchers out there that even into his 70s can still do what he does. Never seen anyone with a sharper knife than him, and never seen anyone roll a pork loin like him either.
Yeah, that's great, mate. Those three. Well, I don't know Gavin Cooper, but I certainly know the other two, Shannon and Georgie. They've always been very much pushing the barrow to getting more butchers into the trade, and more than happy to help out wherever they can. So I suppose you've done a meat stock?
Yeah, I've done a few.
How did you go there?
Best I've done was a fourth. I don't seem to flourish in the shorter, quicker competitions. I think I do thrive more in a team environment. And every time I've been involved in a team, I've always done well, or the team's always done well. I'm not saying it to me, but it just seems to be the way it falls.
So what's your favourite part of being a butcher? What do you find the most rewarding part of it?
I really enjoy engaging with my customers and helping them get the best product they need for what they're doing. Yeah, that customer interaction, helping them, and then having that satisfaction that I get from them coming back and telling me how good their dinner party was, or how good their meal was, or how good the massaman and lamb curry they've got was. That's what I love.
Yeah, customer feedback makes the job so much better, doesn't it?
100%. It's better than the negative comments, that's for sure.
Definitely. With the value adding side of it, what was your role in the team too? What was your responsibilities there?
So my responsibilities started off with boning some of the chickens. So I'd prep them out for Brett, Troy, and Tom for them to do some finer stuff with. And then I moved on to the lamb, so broke the lamb down and then did some value adding with the lamb. Prepped a bit of it for Brett and Tom as well, and finished off with a little bit of beef and tidied up the sausages with Craig as well.
What do you think was the best product that you saw out of the Aussie team? It would have had to have been something beef or lamb, wouldn't it?
I've got to be, of course.
Of course.
I'd have to back him in and say Troy's T-bone that he did looked, I can't remember the name for it. I think the Baron or something like that. It looked phenomenal.
Yeah, right.
And you just imagine cooking that and how it would go and serving that up on a dinner party. Beautiful.
Yeah, Tommy agrees with you. He said the same thing. Baron of beef or something like that, I think it was.
Tommy's on the take with Troy, though. They're...
Yeah, well, they've been around each other for quite some time, haven't they? There's a bit of bromance happening there.
Oh, every time we get together and you just see it, they're just next to each other all the time. It's quite cute. I think Luke was a little jealous, to be honest.
Oh, really? Luke's on the outer. Ooh.
Maybe.
Hey, with the Meat Boutique, mate, what sort of a butcher shop's that now?
Look, I suppose we have a good balance of value add and, your traditional cuts as well. We're trying to push to a lot of I say gluten-free, all our schnitzel's gluten-free, which isn't very easy to find.
Your customer base, are they European? Are they Aussies? Who's your customer? Who do you serve there? What are they looking for?
Because of the area we're in, it's very diverse. We have a lot of the Australian-born, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, that sort of thing as well.
It's a pretty wide demographic, really, from memory out there.
It is.
The cuts that what you're selling over the counter, what sort of a mix would that be between value add and traditional cuts?
Probably more towards value add. I'd say a lot of kebabs, a lot of schnitzel, steaks do go, yes. But everyone tends to look for that easier, quicker meal. They don't have to think or do anything. They want to cook the schnitzel, serve it to the kids, and get them off to sport. That type of thing. A lot of parents are working now. More parents are working now. You don't have that stay-at-home figure like you used to. So so whatever's easy, whatever's convenient for them.
The value add side, what's the most popular? What are the more popular lines that you sell there?
I'm going to go back to it. I keep saying schnitzel. I probably sell about 30 odd kilos of continental schnitzel a day. Yeah, it's a massive seller in shop.
When you say continental, do I dare ask what it's made of?
It's got a bit of garlic, oregano, parmesan cheese, a bit of extra love in it.
Yeah, right, okay. Snitties are, we have this debate at work quite often, and I still think schnitties have a good place in the butcher shop. We used to do a lot of the fowl ones, the chicken ones. So we used to sell a lot of those. And then one day, one of the butchers said, "Why don't we do a beef one?" I said, "Yeah, righto." So we just started doing beef. And before you knew it, we were selling as much beef as we were chicken, which was quite amazing. We had a very, the demographics around the butcher shop that I was managing at that time was very, very Anglo-Saxon. Yeah. And that's what people were looking for. They're looking for something a little bit different. So that was a light bulb moment, thinking we always do the same olds, but why don't we try something different?
Yeah, like I said, everyone loves the same old, but then eventually, you hit a point where you see something different and they'll flick and go for it.
Yeah.
Crumb lamb cutlets, you always sell them. They're another great one.
What about corned beef? We're one of the most popular recipes that are looked up on our Australian beef website is corned beef. Do you guys sell much of that these days?
Yeah, actually we do. I first week back in shop last week, and the boys are a little bit under the pump and understaffed. Hadn't had time to do some of the usual. So no corned beef on the shelf, and I knocked about 4 people back in the first day.
And it's coming into that weather for it too, isn't it? Like your cooler weather that sort of brings them out of the woodwork.
Oh, definitely. I dare say as well, maybe it's also most people don't know how to cook corned beef, which is why they're hunting for a recipe. Seems to be a forgotten art.
I think we see a lot of that. People forget how to cook things. I know I'm guilty of it, but there's always maybe they're looking for something a little bit different, add a few different sort of flavors to the mix. I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely one of those things that it's a very traditional cut. And I don't see a great deal of it in a lot of butcher shops when I get around. Normally I sort of have a good squiz around and check out what people have got in their windows or in their display cabinets, but very rarely see corned beef. And I was just sort of wondering, does it still have pride of place in the butcher shop?
Definitely does. I think too, as you say, it depends on your demographic as well, and if your customer base don't go for it, then there's no point in making it. But if you have the customers that are after it, you do definitely find that is more on the your elderly customers that are looking for it. It's not the 20-year-old tradie going into the butcher after work getting a bit of corned beef.
With the way the trade's going, it's become very artisanal, very craft-like. There's a lot of different things butchers are putting in their windows, obviously, apart from value add, like different types of beef, whether it be retired dairy cattle or they're going the other way. They go putting more Wagyu and MB2, MB3 sort of steaks. But I've always sort of thought with this sort of the way that it's changing, traditionally, the old corn roll might sort of make a bit of a comeback because it's economical for a customer to buy. It's relatively easy for a butcher to make. It eats okay when it's boiled up properly. It's one of those things that I couldn't tell you the last time I saw one. I very rarely used to eat it myself, but I wonder if there's an opportunity there to bring that back in, especially if you're doing beef. If you're breaking down bodies yourself, trying to get the backs or off the scotchies. I don't know if you can buy them separately, but even just if you've just got a few fours in there and did that with them. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm yet to actually find a butcher that can teach me how to do one. I've asked all the old guys I've ever worked with to teach me how to do a proper stitch roll, and none of them have been able to say, yeah, I remember how to do that. So I think it's almost becoming a lost art, to be honest with you, Doug, which is a little sad. I think it could find its place back, but same again, I think you need the right people that want it and want to learn to cook it as well. But that's a whole nother challenge, I suppose.
Yeah, you've really got to stitch it up. I think you could probably just do a wraparound tie around it, but it's not going to really hold everything in place. But once people slice it up, it all falls apart anyway. But I know what you mean. We used to do quite a few in one of the shops I worked in when I was learning, when I was doing my apprenticeship, and one of the butchers there used to take. He was a funny guy, a little fella, but he was a really sort of tidy little butcher and a bit of a smart ass, and which is unusual for a butcher. He'd do a rolled roast, and everything was straight. He'd point out, look at the knots, they're all in a row. Look where the stitches are, they're all spot on, all in a line, like he had a ruler out there. And it made everybody become very competitive. So we'd all stop and look at our own and go, Jesus, I never thought about putting the knots all in a row and all that sort of stuff. So this guy actually created, we had some of the best looking rolled roasts you've ever seen. Like, everybody was trying to have a crack and do better than old Kev. And it was good fun, It was all part of being a butcher. You got one guy there that sort of encourages you to do better than what you're doing. But getting back to the old corn roll, we used to go through a stack of it, and it was used in a lot of cafes. We used to do a lot of food service. Yeah, we did a lot of that sort of stuff. We'd spend I reckon we'd probably spend half a day. There was about 4 of us standing at a table rolling roasts. So we'd do quite a few each week.
Yeah, I've always heard stories about, blokes starting out and their first job was learning how to stitch a corn roll, and they'd spend their whole day, on a Monday morning after the beef's been broken, just stitching. Okay, cool, teach me. No.
One of the other things I've seen, and this one's really a little bit, I don't know if it's too far left or not. You see all these social pages about barbecuing.
Yes.
One of the most popular things I've seen recently is chuck steak being barbecued. The guys are getting onto that, and they're using chuck. And they're not wrong, because it does eat okay as a grill if you're getting the right type of meat. So what they're looking for, they're putting photos up on these websites, on these social pages, and they've got a picture of the first few slices of chuck that they've found in a supermarket or in a butcher shop, and they're going for the marbled stuff. So they're really getting that LG muscle, or the LD muscle, straight, part of the Scotch fillet that runs through underneath the rib cap.
Yeah.
You're getting that part there. You're getting a bit of that, which isn't, I wouldn't say it's 100% tender, but it eats okay. But you're also getting the other part, the rib meat that runs over the top of the chuck eye log. So in America, they call them the Denver, which is your cap, and then your Delmonico, which is a center cut. But they've found this cut, and they've been grilling it, and they're all raving about how good it is. But it's got to have a bit of marbling, have it nice and thick. You wouldn't be cremating it. You wouldn't be having a well done one, but you'd certainly be going for something that's like a medium rare to make it palatable. So what are your thoughts? Do you reckon there's opportunities there for educating customers that, hey, you don't have to always buy the Scotch fillet or the sirloin, but this is an opportunity to probably get people that are on an unlimited budget to sort of getting them to continue to eat meat, provided you're getting the right stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Funnily enough, actually you say that, I put a customer a couple of years ago onto the Denver portion of the chuck. So I used to cut it for him for minute steak, and he'd flash fry it.
Yep.
So almost like a asado rib type thing. Same concept. And he absolutely loved it. And, I was getting these beautiful marble score chucks out of Cape Grim, and just amazing stuff. And you did same again. You'd also get the first 2 cuts on that rib end were almost ate as good as your Scotch fillet. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is. And the secondary cuts always become in favor, and then the secondary cuts then become high demand. You look at pork ribs, do it. Lamb shanks were given to your dog 20 years ago. Now you can barely buy them in wintertime.
Short ribs, shorties.
Short ribs, yeah. Skirt steak, beef cheeks. Don't get me started on beef cheeks.
Well, it's that time of the year for them.
Oh, yeah.
You've been doing a few this week, have you?
That's my next job.
Oh, but how popular are they? Like, this is the time of year where everybody loves that sort of food. It's coming into the winter in the eastern states, I suppose. So it's people who want those winter warmers, those comfort foods, and that's what butchers got to make sure they've got in stock. Beef and lamb lend themselves better to those sort of dishes than what the other proteins do.
Oh, they definitely do. This is the butcher's favourite time of year. It's not barbecue season, it's winter season. It's when everyone wants to stay home and cook. No one wants to go out. It's our time to shine.
That's for sure. So mate, butchery, where do you see it heading? What are your thoughts on the future of butcher shops and butchery?
I've always thought that butchers need to become like chefs, like rock stars. We need to have shops that are destinations and that people want to go to, not just a place to go and get your mince. You want to create a destination that people want to go to that's an experience. That needs to separate us from the supermarkets. Otherwise, we're all just going to end up disappearing, and the independents won't be around. We need to continue that growth.
You're right. I thoroughly agree with you about the destination, because that's what it is. You've got to have a destination shop. You've got to have that point of difference. The personality behind the counter is what the customers come back for. The person behind the shop. And you've got to have that personality. You've got to be a people person, and you've got to listen, and you've got to talk to them. And obviously, give them the right answers as well. If you don't know, find out, give them a call, get their number and give them a call. I'll let you know about it, sort of thing. It's all about the service, because you can't get it anywhere else. You look at some of the successful QSRs that are around there, like your Domino's and your Kentucky Frieds and all those guys. They're known for, like, Kentucky Fried, it's finger licking good, or FLG these days, I suppose. Domino's, they do all sorts of subs, pizzas, and then you've got Subways and Maccas and that. They've all got a little bit of something different there, which draw people there. Butchers have got an opportunity, and they're sort of restricted, but they're not these days. You just got to make sure you're doing it right, but with what you sell and what you put out there. So whether you're doing cooked meats and whether you're doing corned beef or whatever it is, or making pastrami or salamis or whatever you're doing out there, you got to tell people that you're doing it, because they're just going to keep on going to where they're going now and getting it. If they don't know you're doing it, you're gonna miss out. And that's where you see a lot of these guys, a lot of butchers out there that promote themselves very well, and that's where they get their business from, and that's the advantage that these guys have. And I think everybody needs to do that. Everyone needs to use the power that they've got and promote themselves better.
Definitely. I think you need to be willing these days to be a selfless promoter. Is probably the best way to say it. Just say Adam Stratton.
Yeah. Perfect.
Probably one of the very best at it, and he built his small original shop into a conglomerate. Just about, had what, 4 or 5 shops at his peak, and that was just from hyping himself up, talking about himself, and being willing to just always be out there.
Yeah. I always remember I used to sell sausage casings. I worked for a company called Belrose Casings years ago, and I was sitting in my car at an intersection in Hornsby there, and a bus went past me, and there was a big ad on the side of the bus with Adam's shop on it, and I thought, how cool is that? I'd never seen that before, but that's what it's like. That's what you've got to do. It didn't have his head on it, but it just had his shop. So, everyone knows the shop. Adam's a great looking guy too, like me, but he's very good at what he does. Everything he does, he just seems to kick goals, and he just continues on.
Yeah, I think that's how most butchers need to get to. We've got to be at that level and that willing. Offer something different. I think cooked, pre-cooked, ready to go, ready to eat meal solutions are going to become a massive thing. If shops aren't already on it, like I said earlier, it's the way people are going. They're all time for. They want easy. They want ready. They want sorted out for them.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the way to go. If you're not already doing it, get onto it and start exploring what you can do and see what your customers want. So, mate, you got any advice for anybody thinking about becoming a butcher?
I suppose be willing to do
the mundane. Is it mundane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit like that. It's a bit of a monotonous job at times. You link and snags, but find the joy in the little things. Find a shop, find a teacher that's willing to actually give you the time of day and give you what you need to learn. And if you're not getting it at the shop you're at, find another shop. There are plenty of owners out there that want good tradesmen and that are willing to put the time in to create that tradesman. You just need to find the right one.
No, spot on. It's a bit of a mission, but these days there's quite a few opportunities for young people to get into the trade because butchers are screaming for people. And if you got 2 arms, 2 legs, or 1 arm and 1 leg, they're still going to give you a crack because you're going to be good at doing something. There's plenty of jobs in the shop. Like you said, Lincoln sausages. I didn't make my first sausage until I was about in my 2nd year when I came to Sydney. And that's when I learned how to make sausages. We had a factory where I worked in Adelaide. Sausages used to go out, all the trim used to go out on a Monday and Tuesday, and it'd arrive back in the shop on a Thursday afternoon as a sausage. So how'd that get like that, It just doesn't happen. Someone has to do it.
Yeah, you're lucky apprentice.
I was. There was other stuff I didn't like doing either, but anyway. But once I got to learn how to make a sausage, it became, that's basically all I did, mate, for a long time. And I got very bored of it. And then I went to a new shop, and guess what? I was making sausages again. But this guy was a German butcher, and he flogged me to get them right, to make sure they were all the same size and that. And that's where I really started enjoying it because I could see the difference. It wasn't just a sausage. It was actually, I crafted these things and they're all the same length, and there was no single ones hanging out down the bottom, or there was no daggy bits of skin hanging off, That's how hard he was on me. He'd berate me for getting it wrong in the beginning, but after a while, after about 3 or 4 months, I soon learned how to just tidy up what I was doing, and then I became proud of doing it. And I got to say, my son, he's a butcher in up here on the Central Coast, and he's their main guy out the back of the butcher shop. He does a lot of sausages there. They do batches and batches a week. He takes pride in making sausages too, and I taught him here. When I got out of my shops, I bought myself a little filler, and we were making. I still make my Mexican sausages, the little ring stingers, and I taught him how to link them, and he's just he took that on board really quickly, and I thought, hey, this guy's got a bit of promise here. He'd make a great butcher, and eventually he decided, well, I might give that a crack. But it's just those little things that you got to get right, and then you enjoy it. But I think you enjoy it more when you see the work that you're doing and the quality that you're producing.
Yeah, being proud of yourself and what you create and what you do, and as you say, the little things follow. Yeah, I still remember the first day I made mince when I was a 14-year-old kid, coming home and how excited I was to tell my mum that I made mince.
Yeah.
And now it's it's just my job, Yeah, you almost find some of those jobs a little bit therapeutic these days. Standing there linking snags, and you're going through batches, and you're just looking at the wall and just going about it, going through the rhythm, following that motion, and you don't even think, it's just natural.
Yeah. Well, look at the way you display mince. We used just to run it into a tub, and that was it. And then as machinery's got better, so we ended up with you didn't have to sort of lean all the way over to the wall and turn the thing off with a switch. You've got a foot pedal, or you've got a little switch on the side of the machine these days, and so you can make little crowns, and you'd put nice little crowns on the trays in the window, just things like that. It makes your window look so much better, but you're not just running mincemeat into a tub. It doesn't look like it's just been thrown in there. It's showing that you're showing pride in what you do, just exactly what you said before.
It's a way to turn the mundane tasks into something more exciting.
So what's your favourite cut of beef or lamb, mate, and how do you like to eat it?
I was actually thinking about this today because I knew this question was going to come up.
Of course it does.
And I love beef short ribs.
Yeah.
On the Weber, bit of salt and pepper, let them smoke, and just go ham. That's the way to do it. That's my favorite.
You do a lot of cooking?
I do. Normally nothing too flashy. Just your usual home stuff for dinner and that.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy to every now and again, get out there, have a proper cook. Yeah, like I said, short ribs or beef cheeks, beef cheek ragu. Oh my God.
All right, mate. Well, look, thanks very much for your time today. Really appreciate it, and hearing about your story and where you've been, and congratulations again on the fantastic effort in Paris. And I'll look forward to catching up with you in a few weeks. Actually, I'm going to be out and about on the road again, and I'll pop in and say good day, and we'll catch up.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. It's been real, and I'll see you when I see you, Doug.
Will do. Thanks, Gareth. Cheers, mate.
This podcast is provided for information purposes only. The MLA Group strongly recommends that listeners exercise discretion and obtain professional advice before relying on any information in this podcast.